Hello and welcome back to the Just Show Up show. We are gathered here today to try to attempt to get some sense out of what is happening with the gender wars. So the gender wars are definitely happening. Men are fed up with women and women are fed up with men, and there seems to be a very, very big challenge going on globally that spans across different generations dealing with it in different ways. And basically what I want to do today is to try and break it down in some way from different angles, different aspects. And if you have a very linear brain, my way of doing that will hurt your brain because I tend to go from angle to angle and I like to kind of break things apart and look at it as things come to my brain. So I've been thinking about this issue and I've been kind of playing around with it in my own head for all of the past week, and I think what is interesting about this subject is that it is so intensely, profusely complicated. And I have been also reading different forums where people are expressing their frustration, especially young people. The sentiment over and over again is, oh my god, it's so hard to date, why is love so hard, why can't we just be like the older generations? And I want to try and kind of explore that idea a little bit. So basically, the reason why things have worked so well up until this point is because women have been just doing what was expected of them. And now we're at a point in history where I think really like the earth is calling women to change the way that things are being done up here on the planet. So the way that this looks visually is that we've got the planet here, okay? And Mother Earth is basically sending out signals saying, hey, women, wake up, I need your help. And it's not only women, men are also calling hearing the feminine call to tap into their feminine way of doing things, because the way that we have experienced the world so far since the industrial age through capitalism has just been, and this is why I actually want to make this video in this way, because this is the linear way of thinking, right? And my way of thinking is a web. It's things are linked and they're organic and they grow like nature. They don't grow. We're cyclical, right? We're cyclical beings, and the main reason why men and women cannot understand each other very well is really this big difference. Women are not linear, and if we kind of go back all the way back to the beginning of times, we have, I think the biggest reason why we're really struggling is because men and women have never been forced to live together in the same nuclear structures in which we have been divided into right now. We've been divided into these super isolated, smallest of the smallest possible unit of man and woman in a shared household together. And we have fewer and fewer connections. And lots of us also are global citizens now. So lots of us have left our families and our relatives and our wider social structures, and we are more and more isolated, right? And social media is making us feel this simulation of connectedness, but in the real world, in real life, we are not as connected anymore. So now we're faced for the first time in history to just be one man and one woman living together in a household, and we are extremely different, right? So everything that has been an issue in all of human history is now coming up to the surface. And the thing that is really coming up for women is this rage. There's a rage, there's a, and the thing that I want to explain about this particular feeling of just feeling really frustrated, and both men and women are frustrated. Men are frustrated because they cannot control anymore, they cannot dominate anymore, they cannot get things their way anymore, because women are now, for the first time really ever, like you can say the women's movement has been in full force since the 60s, but now it's really the first time that women are fully autonomous in a way that they can finally feel like, okay, wait a second, like I can actually express what I need and what I want. And what women really need and want is based on the idea that women are socialized to be really receptive, and it's like as if we're listening with our entire bodies to how people around us are feeling. And we're always really careful with how we're gonna say things, right? Like we want to kind of think everything through, and we don't want to upset anyone. And when we are not receiving that same level of thoughtfulness or emotional openness, and that kind of like impulse to connect and to relate to other people around us, if we're not receiving that back from the men in our lives, and we're noticing that the men in our lives are really aloof, like the men in our lives, what we're told is that men just want to chill. They just want to chill, right? They don't want to constantly engage. They don't want to explore their emotions, because the men have been socialized to not have the emotions, right? To just be assertive and to be goal focused. So it's almost as if you have two operating systems that are so different, and they're trying to live together. And the man just wants the woman to be quiet and to chill and to not cause problems, don't cause drama, just be happy always, all the time. Okay, so the reason why that's not working at the moment is because women have been, so the difference, the really big key difference is that we're gonna make a little man in here, and then we're gonna make a little woman in here. Okay, this is gonna be stereotypical, doesn't matter. But men have generally not been going into their emotions. They have not been going into their heart. They have not been doing the inner work of exploring their mental space, you know, like healing their trauma. And this kind of goes back to the earth again. The earth is sending an impulse to heal, and that means from the ground up. It means that we have to go back, and women generally have been the ones that have really been feeling that call a lot stronger than men. Maybe because men cannot, like men are too occupied with basic survival. So that's the other thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about. The Maslow's hierarchy of needs has been questioned, but it doesn't matter because the general premise is still fine. Down here we have survival. Yeah. Survival, and up here we have self-actualization. And the other thing that I would kind of like impose on this is that women have been doing the spiritual work of self-actualization, individuation, whatever you want to call it. So men, I think, generally are still a lot more down here in the survival. Because they have not been socialized to be in their emotions and to be nurturing and caretaking, they generally are blocked off from their emotions. So they have not been going into that inner work, whereas women have been going into the inner work and exploring how they're feeling, exploring their mental state, and noticing that we're not feeling right, that the way that we're forced to exist in this world, and especially the industrial world, the capitalist world, where women have to fit into this linear box, right? Like even the way that we have to work, 24-hour cycle, right? A linear 24-hour cycle, all divided into the same units of time. Every day, same levels of production. This does not work because men hormonally are, again, one flat line, and women's hormones look something like this, okay? It's not perfectly the way it looks, but it looks something like this, right? So you've got two very, very different creatures, two very different kinds of people that are both trying to live in a world, and especially women have to now live in a world, we have to become masculine in order to live in a world that was designed by men for men with wives, okay? So now if you're a woman, if you're a young woman coming into this world, there is no way that you're not gonna feel like something about this system is wrong, right? Something about this system did not consider me, does not value me, does not value my way of being, does not permit me to be a cyclical creature. It forces me to fit into this 24-hour box. And I have to work in there. I'm not going to be taken care of by anyone. So I have to take on this masculine way of being. So obviously women are going to be very frustrated, right? They are not getting what they really want, which is, for all women, and I will dare to say this, for all women, what we really, really want is connection and love, and we're focused on the spiritual path. We're much more connected with our spirituality, mainly because we have our cycle every month. We bleed from our vaginas, okay? We are so deeply connected to life and to the cycles of nature. And even if women are now, you know, living modern lives, and even if we're putting on toxic makeup and we're not living supernatural or clean lives, still at the end of the day, our body, our physicality is connecting us a lot more to our emotions. And every month when we are going through our cycle, during the luteal phase, like our cycle is basically a little mini version of the 1 year cycle that nature goes through with the 4 seasons, right? Like you have the winter season, you have the spring season, you have the summer season, and you have the autumn season. And women feel all of that like directly in our bodies. So we understand what Mother Nature is going through. And we can also see every month that whatever the hell is going on the surface of this planet is just not sustainable. Like the masculine systems that were put in place are not sustainable, and they're not sustainable for us to work in. They're not sustainable for us to live in, and they're not sustainable for us to thrive in. So we know every single month of our lives, we know that we need to change things. But at the same time, as soon as we're trying to embrace men into a more feminine way of being, and we're not saying like men have to become women, but what we are saying is that we need a balancing. We needed women to embrace some of the masculine, but now we need men to embrace some of the feminine so that we can meet in the middle as equals. And that's the thing. That's the main reason why all of this is not working, is because like energetically we're not balanced, right? In order for us to attract each other, in order for us to want to be together, we need some of that like polar magnetic energy to circulate through us. And right now all of that is totally off balance. women are having to go against themselves in order to survive in this current system. And the only, now I'm kind of thinking like, okay, what's the solution? What is really the solution to this a mess of a system? And I think there is no simple solution. Women will still continue doing the work of self-actualization, spirituality, and self-love. And the reason why we're really clashing right now is because men still want us to fit into that box. They still want us to just be beautiful, kind, and loving and nice to them and don't challenge anything. But women are feeling the rage. Women are feeling the need to assert ourselves and to speak up and to actually stand up for what we feel is wrong. And men are like, no, don't do that, because if you start breaking our system, like, we're all not going to survive. And like, just obey and stay in your place and don't even think of saying something. But that's not going to work in the long run, because you cannot ever have something sustainable where one side is oppressing the other side. And men too will need to start to feel, and I think they're really, really scared of feeling. Like, men are so scared of feeling. They're more scared of feeling than they're scared of anything. Like, they're so petrified of feeling any emotions, because they know that once they start feeling emotions, they're going to feel a lot of the pain that women have been feeling for centuries. And women are so comfortable with their pain, they're integrating their shadow, right? So when you start the spiritual journey, you first start out with all the beautiful light and love, and you know, I'm gonna go out there and love everyone. And then you start to feel into your own shadow, and then the kind of closing piece of that work, of that inner work, is to really accept yourself, the bad parts of yourself. And that is something that the masculine is not allowing us to be. We have to be a particular way. And for men, it's the same thing. Once they really go deep into their inner work, it's the same thing, right? Like, again, goes back to capitalism, right? Capitalism wants all of us to just be performing all the time. We have to perform our roles, we have to perform our characters, and the spiritual path, the path of self-actualization is the path of really wanting to be fully authentic. And that means all of it. That means like me when I'm strong, and me when I'm weak, and me when I'm needy, and me when I'm not beautiful, you know, me when I'm a slob, me when I'm sick, like all of it together. And it's as if women are somewhere like, if this was like a class, right, where you start from zero, and then this, you know, is like enlightenment. Basically, you exit the system. Women are somewhere like up here, and men have not even begun pretty much the process overall. So it's a mismatch. It's a mismatch. And I think men are just kind of like, as if they're telling women like, just don't go there, just don't go there, leave everything as it is. Like, don't mess around with these things. This is too complicated. We don't have time for this. Like, this is not valuable. And that is the big issue, is that women really value, they know from this cyclical earthly way of being, they know that it's all about community, it's all about circle, it's all about coming together, it's all about taking care of people, it's all about caring about feelings. We have to integrate the feelings. There is no sustainable way to go forward without integrating the feelings. So yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess. And I think like the first step really in terms of coming up with a solution is to start having more conversations and to start sharing our personal experiences. And women are now getting to the point where they're finally brave enough and courageous enough to look at everything that's gone wrong, to look at all of the ways in which we've been violated especially as young women. Like if I even think about my own personal life, like I keep remembering this memory from elementary school where, you know, like all of the girls, all of a sudden, one day to the next, like the boys would just go around and like grab our butts, you know, and we were just getting groped all day long from the moment you got to school until the moment you went home. And it was almost like, I just keep thinking about the fact that everything was geared towards what guys wanted. Like from the time we were about like 8 years old, 10, 11, 12, it was like as if somebody came and was like, you cannot be yourself anymore. Now you have to care about what the boys want and become that. And I keep hearing this word kind of term thing called default setting. I think like the spiritual journey, eventually what our soul really craves for, and that is for men and for women, is to go back to default setting. And capitalism is super against the idea of default setting, because if people would be fine at their default setting without, you know, like fancy bodies, or without, you know, like makeup or fancy clothes, or like all that stuff that we're told that we need to have in order to be like deserving of being alive, we would live in a totally different system. And that is the idea of the new earth, right? Like the old world is falling apart. Whatever is unsustainable will not last. Like there is no way. It's basic like mathematics, it's physics. It's like we cannot continue doing things that are not sustainable. And we, in order to really find a more sustainable way, we will have to address the gender wars. We will have to address the masculine and the feminine, and purge everything that is toxic in it. And there is obviously also like toxic stuff in the feminine as well. And women have already been doing the work of purging that. And both genders need to go deeper. We need to go deeper into the work, and continue purging, and continue collaborating, and continue coming together into conversations, whether that's one-on-one conversations or group conversations. And we need to, like, the work of the inner work is really externalizing our shame. Everything that we are carrying within ourselves, and that is why it is so challenging once the male and the female start living together, because you really are craving that like unconditional acceptance. You just are craving like, okay, this person, they said they're gonna love me, like I don't want to reveal something about myself, and then they all of a sudden like disapprove of me or don't love me anymore. And that's the kind of real vulnerability that we discover once we start living together. And that shame that has been imposed on the individual from the system that says something is wrong with you as you are at your default setting, and you need all of these different things in order to be okay, that way of thinking, that way of existing is just not going to last very much longer. And the work that we all need to collectively start doing is to look inside ourselves and externalize that shame, and start talking about everything that we find shameful, and start doing our healing everything that's ever happened to us, everything that's been handed down to us through our lineage, through our family tree, and really start sharing that, so that we don't feel personal individual shame about things that are not ours. So if any of this sounded interesting, please leave your comments down below. And if you would like to book a one-on-one session with me, I will leave my links in the description. And I'll see you next week for another video. We'll see what it will be. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.